All right, there we go. Welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. We are back. It is a new year, and we've got the one and only damnboy that came through.
Nice
Super
to meet you.
excited to speak with the great, the talented singer. He's a songwriter, producer. You can do it all, man. And you've had some really good traction come over the past year. Your one last time, she, her, hers also came out, and then your I orchestral version also came out last year, man. So yeah, you got some real good momentum. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it's been a crazy year last year, I feel like, for everyone.
What made it feel so crazy when you look back on it?
Um, well, I think for artists, because during the lockdowns here in America, it I feel like last year was everyone kind of getting out of it and kind of like reassessing life a little bit and just going with the flow of things, kind of being normal again. And I think this year is going to be a lot better. I think everyone's on their feet, everyone's kind of grounded and knows what they want. But for me last year, I mean, the I technically only dropped two songs last year, which is kind of crazy for a music career to just drop two songs. But the I song was more of a remix. But I needed time to find my sound, you know. So I spent a lot of earlier of last year and a little bit of the year before that just to kind of like find my groove again.
It's really interesting when you say that you were trying to find your sound. I mean, obviously you had a fan base before last year,
Yeah.
so you had people who followed your career, who are fans of your career. I mean, you did things like, open up for Ja Rule, Nelly. So it's like, it's
Yeah.
interesting when you say to me, like, I had to try and find my sound. What was that process for you, and why did you feel at that time you needed to find your sound?
Yeah, a little background. I'm from Hawaii, so my first ever single and still my biggest song to date was a reggae pop song. And that got on the radio and it hit Billboard, hit like 96 on Billboard. So that song always kind of like, I'm grateful for that song, but like, I was trying to move forward genre wise and career wise, and that just kind of was a big shadow of some sort. And it took some time, especially for streaming and stuff, for my algorithm to change because I kind of switched sounds like a year after that song dropped, and took some time. I discovered myself. I did some EDM things, collabs and stuff, but um, yeah, I think for me, algorithmically for streaming and just for myself, like the reason why I say find myself because I can write anything. Like I write K-pop on the side. I write for other people. I love all music. So like, if this world was like not like a box, everything's kind of boxed in some way, but like I would do everything. I would do a metal song, I would do like a jazz song, but I had to like regroup and be like, okay, what is Dambo? What do I want to do? What excites me? And then I got to this point where I'm at now.
Yeah. I mean, it's always interesting that, like, as an artist, you're trying to continue finding yourself, of like,
Yeah,
you're just trying to figure out who am I and what sound am I trying to represent at this point in my life.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a to me it's a constant journey because if it's if you're not always searching and seeking, what's the point, right? But I think a lot of successful artists, especially in this time, like you also have to find the niche. And I felt like I never had my niche. I think my niche is my voice because anything that I sing on sounds like me. But I'm really into production and songwriting, so I had to find what my niche is. And there's so much music now. Like, how do I stand out? How do I love a lot of eclectic music too. So how can I be as eclectic as I can while also being, you know, I want to be mainstream as well. So like, how do I balance those two things together and create something like good and unique?
Have you come up with an answer to that question? Or I'm assuming you have, based on the fact that you've got a sound now and you're releasing
Yeah,
music, but
yeah. I mean, it's probably going to change, and this year I'm going to do other things. But for now, like, so I've been working on my project. Never Ending Unknown. I've had that title for years. Like just sitting on this is like, oh, it's gonna be an EP, and now it's gonna be, I think I'm just gonna make it an album. But I've kind of come to the conclusion last year and this year, like, okay, like the uniqueness of what's going on. I kind of predicted that like boom bap would come back like really strongly, and you had the Doja Cat song Paint the Town Red, and like you have Benny the Butcher coming back up, and like all these like boom bap hip hop artists are doing really well. And I was like, well, when I think about boom bap, I think about rapping over it or R&B singing. I don't ever really think about pop, right? Like pop writing, pop singing. And the only one that I can really remember is Dido with Eminem, you um, with Stan. And so I'm like, okay, well, this area is kind of like undiscovered ish. And what I mean is like boom bap. It's like not, there's songs out there with pop singing that have a boom bap kind of drums, but like not really boom bap. Like like I don't know. There's a difference, but yeah, that's kind of the niche I'm going with. It's just boom bap with pop writing, ballads, and other things too. But that's mainly it.
Yeah, I have always wondered though that like hip hop beats, I mean, they're my favorite beats personally. I've always
Yeah.
been a fan of like just there's something about the sampling, there's something about the way they get them. And I think now more than ever, the line between a hip hop beat and a normal beat is like or a pop beat is kind of blurred. Like I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Yeah.
Paint the Town
Yeah.
Red, that is easily rappable, like you can
Yeah.
easily rap over it or you can
Yeah.
easily sing over it. And so it's a
Yeah.
fine line to me of like the evolution of music is like, I would not, I feel like genres are blending more and
Yeah.
more, and specifically hip hop and pop. I feel like hip hop is such an influence and such a power now in the music genre that it is
Mhm.
naturally gravitating towards, being the most popular genre of music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hip hop is dominated for so long. But I think because of that, all the genres blending, I think it's best to have elements that are very, very traditional. That sounds funny. It's like to be unique now is like to go back, right? Since that's what I'm trying to do. Like with she, her, hers, like, I took a lot of influence from like, Wu Tang or even like Immortal Technique, like beats and stuff, and just kind of like really stayed true to like being as minimal as I can with like just drums, bass, piano, just some strings in the back and me singing, kind of like as stripped as I can be. With one last time, my friend Noel is on there, so he's like a EDM artist producer. So I was like, okay, how can I take boom bap and like elevate it with EDM? And I've never really heard a lot of like traditional boom bap with EDM production.
Yeah. I mean, you said that like you're trying to find your niche, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because it's like I've always been a believer. You're a creator and
Hmm.
you're an artist, and you should just
Yeah.
make whatever the hell you want to make. And so there's a part of me that's like you're trying to find your niche and you're trying to find your lane, and in a way, by finding your lane, you almost limit yourself by
Yeah.
going, hey, I
Yeah.
don't make that music because I've
Yeah.
decided this is what's going to make me stand out. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really weird place to be in where like now everyone is looking for that unique competitive advantage in the hyper competitive music industry. And as you said, more musicians than ever before. The barrier for entry is non-existent. Like you literally can just get a mic for $100 and you can make your own
Yeah.
beats on a computer for free. And all of a sudden you
Yeah.
got a song. So it's just this really weird dynamic now that musicians are not making music that is like it has to be super intentional. That's what
Yeah.
really fascinates me is like super
Yeah.
intentional, super genre specific.
Yeah. You know, I think I think a lot of musicians, we all go through the whole like, oh, it's unfair in the industry, but like, I think I've like overcome it to like, at the end of the day, you can't be competing with anyone, right? Like it's just I like it's just not healthy. spiritually and creatively. So, you know, for me, yeah, I have to put myself in the box because, like I said, like I can write anything, like literally I can write anything. And like, if I don't put myself in the box, I don't have a niche, which I don't have a clear product. It's music business, right? So like, you know, like McDonald's can't sell furniture, like they sell fries and burgers. So, you know, I had
Yet.
to do that to myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, technically they're a realty company.
Yeah. And
But
let's be honest, all those companies, they become bigger and bigger and bigger, and they
yeah,
start to sell lifestyle brand, and it becomes a whole brand.
yeah. Yeah, but you know, it started with fries and a burger and shake, right? So that's what, you know, I'm having to do. Like, you know, again, like I have so much demos that are not even in my genre. Like, you know, who knows, I could do a side project, but like just for damnboy, I needed to like hone it in a little bit and find something unique. And yeah, you know, I write songs, but for me, like if I'm gonna release something, it's like a movie. Like, you know, like if I'm watching a movie, it has to be cohesive, you know. I don't care what anyone says. People don't listen to albums. I listen to albums, and everyone else should be because it's art. Like, you know, yeah.
I
I don't
agree with
know.
you.
People put time into it. Like people put time into things, and you can tell. You can hear it. You know, you can hear how much effort people put into it. Sometimes songs come out like that, you know, and they become hits, and that's cool. You know, I just for me, I'm not trying to write a hit. If I write a hit, it becomes a hit. You know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with you though. I think albums are a lost art form.
Yeah.
Like I just genuinely think that there is something to the story of an album. And to be honest, every iconic artist has a banger of an
Yeah.
album. And if they
Yeah.
don't, then they don't go down in time as one of the best. They just because it's
Yeah.
like it's the one thing you can't do. Like if you can just release singles, that's great. You make singles. But
Yeah.
there's like the apex of creativity to have a project of work that is so cohesive that matches and is consistently fantastic throughout the whole project. And
Yeah.
the work that it goes into it, the thought that goes into it is at a different level as opposed to just one song that you release that blows up.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, the funny thing is, but it takes the singles for people to actually go to the album. You know, it's like it's a full circle. You know, like you need to have it all. And what's crazy too is, within an album, you can't have every song to sound like a single. It's not healthy. It's your mind gets too, I don't know. You know, it's too much. Like you do
Well, it's
need
like
the
in a
B-side
movie,
cuts.
as you said,
Yeah,
like you need the building to the
yeah,
apex point of like, you know, the character arc of what's happening in the story. You need the all is lost moment. You can't
yeah,
have an action movie where it's action from the
yeah,
first second to the last second. You kind of need
yeah.
some narrative in there that makes the payoff of the action worth it. It's the contrast of it that is actually key. So I agree with you, man. I think that is an underrated belief.
Yeah, you can't have like a Michael Bay explosion every minute.
Because you're like, what am I watching at some point?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just like, what's the point of this? It's too much. It's an hour of just explosions. Like this just
Yeah,
cannot be the case.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, I'm trying my best and just trying to be different and fall in love with what I'm doing, and it's basically it. But you know, I'm doing more collabs this year too. I haven't really actually done a lot of collabs in general, so yeah,
Why haven't you done many collabs?
it's because I can do it myself. But um, you know, it's just fun to collab with other artists, you know, and business wise too, it brings your numbers up, you know. But before, like, you know, I'm honing in my sound. I'm learning how to do this and that, and just takes time, you know. Like I think in this time of like everything's rushed, right? You see an ad, it's like, oh, learn how to produce now, or like get rich now, you know. So it's yeah, it's just a lot of growing, and you know, me collabing with other people this year would definitely help me grow as an artist, my numbers, and all those things, you know.
How do you feel about the now kind of mentality of like, get this now, get great quickly now? Like, how does that make you feel as someone, especially as someone who's been honing their craft for a long period of time. Like, what do you think about that mindset of the now mindset?
Yeah, honestly, I wish when I was like growing up and learning guitar and such, I did have platforms that we learned on my own, but like, there's things that like it's insane. Kids can learn like quick, like, and nothing is wrong with it, but I think, the now movement and like you can do it, like, grind. It's healthy, but there's unhealthy aspects to it as like, they tell you they show you the big picture, but they don't show you each paintbrush and each stroke it takes to get to that point, and I think people learn, I mean, production is one thing. You can't rush production. You could go on Splice and put all those loops together. That's fine, but that's not production. Like you'll learn production when you compare your work with other people, and um it's positive and toxic at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I just I have always believed in like the 1,000 hours required to
Yeah.
become a master at your craft.
Yeah.
And there's you can't really, because time is an unquantified, like time is the investment. It is
Yeah.
like, how long am I willing to
Yeah.
work at this to be the best at it?
Yeah.
Like, and if you're not willing to put in time into the thing, then it's like, well, do you really want it? Like, if you couldn't do it now, would you do it?
Yeah.
But if it was a guarantee, if you could say, if you did this for 5 years and you worked at it and it was guaranteed to happen, would you do it? Versus if you could have the option of get the quick fix, but it'll never happen, I reckon people will still go the quick fix. The delayed
Yeah.
gratification piece is one of the pieces that like is the difficult part for a lot of people to grasp.
Yeah, I think, with social media, it opens up the possibility of doing anything, right? Like you see influencers becoming movie stars and TV and or dancers or whatever, which is it's not a bad thing, but it does create a rush of like, hey, this person did that with one video. Like it's insane. But yeah, you will eventually see who's an artist and who's not an artist, right? I've been playing guitar ever since I was a kid and writing songs and blah blah blah. Like to me, music, yeah, I'm trying to make a career, a successful career out of music, but to me, it's more than just a career. It's me, it's my lifestyle. Like I have to write, I have to make music, right? That's the difference. Um, and I think in the music industry, it's so broad. Like I can't really, you have artists like that actually make their own stuff, and then you have big artists that get songs from other people. Like it's really hard to gauge. But for what I want to make my own stuff. I want to be an artist. I want to be hands on. I want to have a legacy that people respect and know that I made my music. I think, yeah. I mean, if you look back at all the artists that we really really love, most of them wrote all their stuff. You watch those documentaries of them making it, and that's what I want. Like I want that. I don't want my biography to or biopic to be like, yeah, I got that song from somebody and this song from somebody, and it's just, yeah, that's not what I want.
Those artists just won't have biopics, or they will just claim all the songs themselves.
I mean, again, to each his own, but like I just don't understand when an artist is like, the song really means a lot to me and there's 20 writers on it. I just don't, to each his own. Again, music is collaborative, but like to me, like I can't really connect to a song if there's like, even if there's four other writers on it. Like that's like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I can't
if
really grapple with one other writer. Like for me, hip hop
yeah,
being my genre of
yeah,
like, it is built off writing. And so if you
exactly.
put away your pen and you're like, and I've said this before, I get it, because at
Yeah,
some point you're like, it is more difficult for me to sit by myself and figure it out than it is for
yeah,
me to get other people to do it for me. I come in, I add my layer to it, and then I can quickly
yeah,
record it and bring out projects. I get it on a
yeah.
business sense.
I mean, to me, if I'm gonna collaborate with somebody through writing, I'm gonna collaborate with them because they bring something that I can't, or like, I don't say can't do, but like they just bring something new. But if I'm writing something personal, I try not to have anyone on it. Like I mostly write all my own stuff, you know. But again, to each his own. I'm just saying that's what I would like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you're much nicer than I am. I'm just like, hey, you
Yeah.
cannot claim these songs are yours when there are writers on
Yeah.
it. Because, I mean, everybody knows that there are people who don't credit writers in the
Yeah, I know.
tracks.
Yeah.
And then they will come out and say, I wrote this. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, you didn't. Stop pretending there. I mean,
Yeah.
almost anyone on a big label that is successful, those labels are not going to take a risk. They don't know what the hell you're going to write. So they're going to guarantee they've got writers on staff. They're going to make sure that they're going to have a say, that they have some
Yeah.
direction, some control in the output that's coming. Like very rarely
Yeah.
are they going to be like, here you go, fingers crossed for the next 12 months. And then they have to approve everything you're going to release.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, like I think, like you said, like with especially with hip hop, like you know, a lot of people or the tradition of hip hop is like the rapper wrote it, you know. And when you get into pop, it gets a little blurred, but like again, to each his own. Like I feel like, and I'm just talking about myself because like I know that I write music that resonates with me, and hopefully it resonates with other people. But with pop music, it's a little different because when you do have the 20 people in the room, they're not trying to write a personal song. They're trying to write an anthem that everyone can relate to. I know that what I write to, not everyone's going to relate to, you know? So I guess it's a different goal, especially in hip hop. Like, you know, there is different writings now. There is you know, the songs that are very personal. And then there are the songs that are anthems. It's just kind of like, you know, different writing, I guess. But I'm just speaking just for myself.
Do you enjoy writing for other people?
Yeah, it's fun. It's easy. You know, I get to dive into a different genre. Yeah, especially K-pop. K-pop is like 5 genres in one song. It's kind of nuts. Yeah,
It's interesting that
it's
you
fun.
say it's easy. What makes it easy?
It's easy to make something. It's not easy to make something like amazing. Sometimes it happens easy, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, just making music is easy. Like just spinning melodies and writing words and creating is easy. But, you know, getting to a point where, you know, something is like a hit, it takes time, you know, it takes a lot of time, but it's fun.
Yeah, easy for you, not so much for me.
Oh, I guess. Because that's all I do, dude. You're way better at talking and doing podcasts than I am,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, people have said I don't know how you do it, and I'm like, hey man, all I do is I just talk. That's talk and
Exactly.
listen. It's to me, it's not that hard. I think it's intuitive, but yeah, once you've been doing it for a long time, I think you start to naturally settle into it and be like, I've got a rhythm to it, I've got a pace to it. I know
Yeah.
where to kind of look in terms of my own creativity to be able to get what I need out of it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you could probably have a microphone and speak in front of people, and I can't. I can sing in front of people.
That's so
I think
interesting
that's
because I'm
good.
the opposite. I can for
Oh,
sure I can speak in front of people. Public speaking I
yeah.
actually enjoy, but I cannot
Yeah.
sing in front of people.
Yeah. See,
Karaoke
it's
is
different.
not for me.
Yeah. It's different.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's the same thing, but it's not, right?
I think it's a different level of vulnerability. Like
Yeah.
it's you've been crafting your singing voice and your ability to perform in front of people your
Yeah.
whole life. And essentially I've been doing the same, but in the complete opposite way. I've been crafting my speaking voice. So
Yeah.
when each of us are out there with the craft that we've been working on, it's like, hey, I'm confident enough to be like, I've been putting in the work to not be scared of what's about to happen. But on the flip
Yeah.
side, the thing that I haven't worked on at all, it's like it exposes my flaws that I'm not ready to expose yet.
Yeah. True. And then for me, if I sing off key and I forget the lyrics, yeah.
Well, I fuck up many words, my friend. I've fucked up people's
Oh,
names on the show. I forget where I'm at half the time. So
yeah,
yeah, there's
you're
so
good.
many mistakes. I think, you know, when I listen back, I definitely pick up the things that I would change every single
Yeah,
time. Every podcast that I ever have, I'm like, I would change that about my delivery. And then the feedback I get is, oh, you speak so eloquently. I'm like, I don't
yeah,
feel that way. I feel like there are lots of things I'd rather change.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
different. Who do you listen to in podcasts?
So I actually try not to listen to people in my genre. I
Mm.
I like the to step outside, and one of my favorite podcasts, and I've been going back into the history, is Your Mum's House, and it is a
Oh, cool.
real kind of it's a really big podcast, but it's like dark and funny, and it's Tom Segura and his wife Christina
Oh,
Pajitsky,
okay.
and they're
I didn't know that.
just
I didn't know that was the name of the podcast.
yeah, they're so funny together. Like I'm on
Yeah,
episode like 300 and something at the moment. Like they've got
crazy.
600 plus. So I went back and they've just got podcast after podcast of just those two talking to one another. And it is so fascinating to me to not only see a husband and wife laugh and discover things about each other all the time, but I find
Yeah,
the relationship fascinating. And I find just I don't know, it's really cool that you could have someone you live with and that you love and that you still want to talk to all the time. Like
yeah,
that to me is the best, is that I want to talk to you all day, every day, and I never want to shut the fuck up. And I always want to discover more about you that makes me weird and cringe and all of the above.
yeah. There's a few podcasts of like fathers talking to their like children. Have you seen those?
No.
It's not. I mean, and the kids are young. The kids are like 3 years old, like 4. That's crazy.
What are they
Yeah.
like? Like, what is it? Have you listened to
So
many?
I know two because I see them on like Instagram a lot. But so one of them during, I think they got really big during the pandemic, but it was this I forget their names, but it was a father and a daughter. The daughter was really young, like could barely speak almost. And it was more cute and funny. And then the other one that I've seen was father and son, and I think the son was like probably 5 or 6, and the video was like basically the son telling the father how much he loves the father and that he's always been there for them. Like what?
Wow.
It's so reflective. It's crazy. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
father's just sitting there trying not to cry. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that would be like. I mean, I've wondered what it would be like to just record my family members of just like,
Yeah.
hey, let's do an episode of just us talking. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. There's something about a microphone that brings it out in a weird
Yeah.
way. There's something
It
different.
brings it, you feel like there's an audience, so you talk differently, which is kind of weird.
I think you're
I
in a
don't
weird
know.
way, you're more open.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've found. I've been
Yeah.
surprised by how much people are willing to give when there's a microphone. And then in private they might. There's always like a part of them they're not going to give, but there's still intimate stories that I have heard on the show that
Yeah.
I'm like, if you and I are virtually strangers, but
Yeah.
you're comfortable enough to be able to share it, that also
Yeah.
interests me.
I think psychologically in our head we're giving way to like some invisible platform. It's even like, if you're at an office job and like, you talk to your coworkers, but then suddenly your coworker has to like give a speech to everybody and then it changes. It's yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I always had an idea for a podcast. I just don't have the time right now, but maybe
Yeah.
when I have the time, but like to just talk to old people
Mm.
of just like and just ask them about their lives because
There's
I
just gonna
have
be a
had
lot of stories.
that's what I mean because I have
Yeah.
this theory that everyone has at least one story in them, like one
Yeah.
really
I
good
mean,
story.
at least, dude, at least.
So
Yeah.
it would be fascinating to me to listen to old people's lives, like what they've gone through, and like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because so many people live at the same time as us, but we won't speak or communicate with any of them.
Yeah.
And so it's like I wonder what they go through. I wonder what lives they live. I wonder what shit that they have
Yeah.
experienced and wisdom that they've gained. And I'm just like, huh. It's like a weird existence. We're aware of everybody, but we'll never interact with them.
Yeah, you know, all the elder age people that I've spoken to recently, like I've learned a lot, and you know, a lot of them grew up during. I'm Vietnamese and French, so you know, some of them grew during the Vietnam War, and I'm just like, bless you.
Thank you.
And I'm like, that's insane. Like, you know, like that you went through that. Like, I mean, even my family, like my dad and my mom came, like they're immigrants from the war, and my dad has seen like people get shot and stuff. You know, so it's yeah,
Does he
we're
speak
pretty
about it?
blessed, man. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, it's not like all day. I'm pretty sure when he hits like the older age, he might just always just tell old stories. But I've heard it here and there. You know, I think for Vietnamese people, they like to reminisce, but they also like to leave some, you know, trauma. It's like I won't keep talking about trauma all the time. You know, I
Yeah.
think there was a time where for Vietnamese people, it was always about trauma and like war, but like I think they're, you know, kind of like moving forward. It's like, dude, okay, we're American now, and not like we're gonna forget, but like let's move forward. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it left an indelible mark on you? Like, can you feel the cultural Vietnamese and French side on you as you move forward, as you're like kind of carrying yourself? You're obviously, you know, American, but as
Yeah.
you move forward, can you feel the mark of like their histories and the history of your ancestors?
Yeah. So it's funny, right? I'm from Hawaii originally. I'm born and raised mostly in Hawaii. I left to Vietnam actually around when I was 8. So I was American. I moved to Vietnam for 5 years. So I had the opposite experience than a lot of like Vietnamese people do. They're like, usually it's I'm Vietnamese and then I moved to America. So I got to live there. I got to experience it. Living in Hawaii though, it's such a melting pot that you know you don't really feel like a minority or anything. You just kind of feel like, oh, you're in Hawaii and blah blah blah. But you know, I think as far as music, when it comes to music, you know, I never really cared about before. I never really cared about representing myself as a Vietnamese person. To me, it's like, oh, I'm a human being. I make music. But you know, I think, like I said, putting myself in a box. I'm Vietnamese, so I have a different experience than another person would. So that is something I can showcase, you know, in myself. So last year and this year, I'm well, I mean, it's only been 3 days, but last year I've kind of reached out more to like my community, whether if it's you know American Vietnamese people or Vietnamese people in Vietnam. Yeah, so it's helped and it's changed me, and it took some time though because I think like I'm first generation in my family, so I
Same.
definitely had some like trauma from the war that like I didn't go to war, but like my dad experienced it, you know, and that seeps into his DNA and goes into mine, and it's like, you know, that's why I was such an angry kid growing up. Maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
you know.
Did you feel angry as a kid?
Oh hella, dude. I felt like I moved around so much too, so like every year was kind of like a different school until I hit high school and I just kind of stayed.
Okay.
But like
Wow.
every year, yeah, mostly every year before that was like different school, different school. So like that's why I gravitated towards music so much because like I didn't really have a best friend that I could like hang out with all the time. So when I was a kid, it was like video games, music, a lot of cartoons and anime. Basically it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm first generation as well, in my
Okay.
family. So, yeah, I think the foreigner mindset definitely is different. I've noticed of like having
Yeah.
parents and relatives who don't originate in the country that you're born is like I
Yeah.
can definitely recognize the difference in the way they view the world and in the
Yeah.
past, like
Yeah.
traumas that they've had to deal with and the past difficulties and how that influences the way they teach you life lessons and the way they
Yeah.
teach you. Like for me personally, it's always been like, you have to go after it. No one gives you anything in this world. You have to go
Yeah.
and work for it and take it and earn it. Like that
Yeah.
is a really big one from like the Eastern European thinking, and like you don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
Like no one deserves anything. It's like a weird thing. And then you hear the way people talk, and I'm like, huh, it's we just came from two different places.
Yeah. I mean, I think immigrant families have that like survival mentality, right? Especially Vietnamese people do. It's great, and I'm Asian, so it's like, hey, I want to do music. They're like, wait, what? Like, so yeah, I mean, in the beginning was a very like there was some struggle with them to like understand what I was doing until I dropped my first song and that did really well on radio, and they're like, oh, okay, but my parents still really still understand the music business.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
even understand it as well, dude. It's crazy. It's
I
just
don't think
ever evolving.
anyone understands it.
It's like an ever evolving monster. It's not. So like what 2 years ago, 3 years ago was TikTok. Now it's AI. What's next, dude? Like,
Oh man, this
yeah,
AI thing is wild.
yeah,
Like it's just crazy. I don't know. I still think it can't replace humans. I've always believed that human creativity is kind of like
yeah,
irreplaceable because it's unique in the sense of
yeah,
you can't, human creativity isn't like, oh, this is human creativity and it's a small box. It's like, this is damnboy's creativity. This is
yeah,
Aaron's creativity. Like each of our own creativity is uniquely different. And that's
yeah,
almost what makes it human, is that every human has a different creativity. And so you can't just replace that with AI. That is impossible to replace in that sense.
yeah. I mean, now, right? Because I feel like AI in music, it's not at the point where it's like, oh, it's amazing. It's like it's okay. Like I've used it. It's fine. It's a tool. I like I usually sometimes I'll send demos out and I'll change, AI my voice to like, I don't know, Rihanna or Ariana Grande. I'm not a girl, so like, switch my voice up when I send it to an A&R or something. It gives them a different vibe. And that's a great tool. But, if you're talking about AI that like is gonna like make a song for you, we're not there yet, like to where it's amazing.
But it
Um,
takes out the work. That's the weird thing to me, is like,
yeah,
if it becomes too easy, it loses
yeah,
value. Like there
yeah,
is value, as we said, albums. It goes back to like, hey, there's something about time and effort and energy and intensity and the journey of you intentionally wanting to create something
yeah,
beautiful and going through the painstaking process. But if you don't have to
yeah,
do that, it almost doesn't make it special. Like you just were like
yeah,
click and it's like, okay, fine. And then you'll
yeah,
have two lanes of artists. You will have AI artists who use
yeah,
AI, and you'll have traditional artists who make their own music.
yeah.
And it almost is two completely separate genres. They're not the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that in my lifetime, before I die, maybe, hopefully not, that like AI and robotic music will take over. I'm not sure, but like, yeah, like it's intention. Like the artists that I love, are usually very eclectic and unique. And even in big artists back then, it's like they were eclectic and unique at that time. That's why they stood out with the hit song. And we're seeing it now that, just because you have a hit song and have this big budget with this label and that label, that doesn't always mean success. Like success in music, you need those things, but like you need to also be quirky and unique. Like, you know, it's just the truth. But yeah, I don't know what the future holds for AI and robotics and all that stuff. I As a tool, it's cool. It's just I don't know. I feel like music is already getting to a point where it's like so cookie cutter in some way. I don't know. It's weird. I think it's funny. I think after the death of like MTV, music has kind of like become less unique in some way. I don't know what. I don't know what it is. Not to say there isn't unique music. There is. I'm just saying on like the mainstream level, it's not as diverse as it once was. It's weird.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I think I think MTV had power over people. and now people have the power, right? People have the power to listen to whatever they want, and that's a good thing. But like, I think MTV was the ultimate curator of like what was hot. And then once that was taken away, you allow people to gather, which is not wrong, but sometimes people don't have great taste. Like I don't have great taste in things that I don't know, and I'm gonna assume this is like the best when it's not. I don't know. Maybe that. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think it
It's
opened
tricky.
the, yeah, I don't know. It's also, it opens the door for just who has the best marketing.
What does that mean though? That means who has the most money, right? I think there's people with great marketing with no money, but like, yeah, I just think again, I'm not trying to be negative, but like, yeah, just times have changed. Like I don't know what AI and robotics are gonna do to music. Like music is already kind of in a sense robotic, right? The system, the industry itself. So I just don't know what that would bring. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what labels would do with it because, they were trying to sue and do this and that, and it's crazy.
Well, you might find that people sell the rights to their voice,
Yeah, I've been seeing that. We're selling catalog. A lot of people, a lot of bigger artists are selling catalog now.
which
You
is
know,
also pretty scary.
yeah,
Like I personally don't like the idea of selling my voice because like I don't control what comes out of my mouth. I don't control what I'm being
yeah,
used to promote. Like, yeah, that is weird to me that anyone would feel comfortable with allowing their voice to be used for any purpose.
yeah.
Like that's just strange to me.
It's like that Black Mirror episode. Did you watch the new season
I didn't,
of?
but Black Mirror is starting to become scarily life.
Yeah, yeah. They basically in that one episode they were using this character's likeliness, and she was on like she had her own show, and it was like live. Oh no, no, it wasn't live. Sorry, it was her, and she was whatever she was doing throughout the day was being like broadcasted on like their Netflix on in the show, and it was like played by other characters, but it was like what she did. It was pretty insane.
Yeah. Are we surprised? Like that
Yeah,
really could be the case. I mean, the metaverse is a thing. Like
yeah,
we're on the precipice of the world just being very like completely different world from what it was when I was
yeah,
born like 30 years ago. Like it
yeah,
is just gonna be completely different. It's sci-fi. Like, I
yeah.
mean,
Everything
you
is gonna be a video game.
literally it's all going to be video games. I
Yeah,
mean, screens, holograms. I mean, they literally have robots. Like they're developing robots. Like we're going to have robots in our homes. That is going to
yeah,
be a point there. I mean, there's going to be a point where we're probably going to integrate even further with technology where we become symbiotic. I just don't see how we don't. The way we carry phones, iPhones, iWatches,
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's on us. Why would it not be inbuilt at some point?
yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, this is like the Matrix shit.
I know, I know. And then like this is happening and just shit around the world, and then I'm like here just making music.
You know, it's funny. I said to my friend the other day, it's like I spend 10 minutes on Twitter or I spend 10 minutes on TikTok and it's depressing as fuck. And then I
Yeah,
go outside and it's sunny and it's beautiful and I can sit in a
yeah,
cafe and I can
yeah,
act and I'm just like, I don't know how to reconcile those two things of like the world is completely fucked, but my patch of the world is pleasant. And
yeah,
I'm privileged enough and lucky enough to be able to sit down and enjoy the weather. And I seem to be like, I should enjoy that. It
yeah,
is something I should enjoy. And I shouldn't be like plagued by the world's problems because there's very little that an
yeah,
individual can do. But like I don't know, it warps your view of the world, it seems.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always gonna be some shit. I mean, you know, um, can't we're not we're not the savior. So it's like we can't save everything. I mean, the only thing you could do is like, yeah, help as much as you can, maybe spread awareness, but like, yeah, dude, Twitter's so toxic. Like I can't be on Twitter. Like the only time like I'm on Twitter is I post one thing and I just dip out. I just like, I don't like to stay on. This I only mainly focus on like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube,
Yeah.
like my three. Just yeah, it's so much apps too. It's like, oh my God.
I've been really calibrating my feeds now to like just cooking videos because I'm just like,
For Instagram
as
or
in
TikTok?
for TikTok, I'm just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
The be watching people cook shit. I'm like, I could get that all day. That stuff is
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah.
best. So satisfying to see how they make
Yeah.
it. And then
Yeah.
yeah, love that shit.
Yeah, man. I think you're a creative, I'm a creative. Like, yeah, social media is our like livelihood, but like, yeah, we gotta go out, man. You gotta experience life, you know? Like I think podcasting is cool. You're talking into random people and telling your story, they're telling their story, but the sunshine, man. You need the sunshine, you need
Yeah.
the air,
Well, I
you
think
know.
I've got nothing to say unless I live my life. That's the weird
Exactly.
thing. Like, I actually have nothing.
Yeah.
If I'm only on social media, I got nothing to talk about because what
Yeah.
is that? That's not life. That's not experience. So, like,
Yeah.
when you get out there and you experience things, you're like, oh no, this is what makes this significantly more interesting. I'm sure you find the same thing when it comes to making your music is like, I need to actually live my life and go outside and see people and talk to people and experience things. And it
Yeah.
enables the creativity to come out.
Yeah, definitely. I think Instagram and TikTok, like, I make content, I'll throw it out, but like, I just honestly, I really want to connect with people. Like, I'm actually been trying to connect with more people in Vietnam, so that's why I'm like been on, and posting and just connecting with friends. But like, I try not to do too much. Like, it's yeah, it is hard. It's like it's on my phone. My phone is on me all the time, but it's a balance.
Yeah. That's why it's good to like go to a place where you're not allowed your phone. It reminds you.
Yeah, like, yeah, like what place though?
Well, a while ago, I went to go see Dave Chappelle, and they made like he came to Australia like
Oh
I think
damn!
a
How
year
was that?
ago. So good. He's phenomenal live. Jeff Ross, Darnell
Oh
Rawlings
wow!
were there.
Oh
Honestly, I
wow!
was so impressed by the show itself, but they made you lock your
Yeah.
phone in like a bag
Oh,
in a
okay. I see. I
pouch,
see.
and so it was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that
Yeah.
I wasn't like trying to film shit or that I wasn't trying to take photos. It was just like, hey, you just live in the moment. Or like when you go to the beach or just even at dinner, like when you're at dinner with somebody, you just should have the rule of like, you just don't look at your phone, put it on silent, you just talk. You just enjoy
Yeah.
the experience for what it is. Like, I think those things you need to do.
Yeah. That's true. I think though, I mean, again, to each his own, I guess. But like, yeah, overdoing it too much, like it's. I I would say I used to do that, but like, just like I'm eating, this is nice. I'm a foodie, so like I want to post this or. But again, man, there are people out there who just go out and eat and they film it and then they post it and then they go viral and then they get invited to free restaurants. Like that's also awesome too, dude.
Yeah, that don't get me wrong. It's all awesome. You just have to pick at some point. Like you just can't
Yeah, I
do it all.
know.
Like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I mean, you can try do it all, but then there is an
yeah,
existence of like there is a point where when you do things for benefit, you almost don't just enjoy them for the sake of enjoying them. Like
yeah,
I don't know. If there's an ulterior motive, then it's not. But I don't know. There's something about yeah, it would just change the way I view my food when I like get a meal and I photograph it. Then I have to go back and I have to have a narrative to it and I have to explain it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's not the
yeah.
same as me just sitting in a restaurant and ordering and me
I
just
know.
enjoying the atmosphere and being with the company and just like
Yeah.
yeah, it's different.
It's so funny because it's counter to what you love because you love watching videos on TikTok.
That's right.
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to
Hey,
do it.
to be honest, nobody has to do it. I'm just going to enjoy it because people do it. And I've considered doing it myself, like actually doing it,
Yeah.
but I don't know. There's something about it that I don't want to take away from myself. There's always almost this part of it that like I like the simplicity of it, and I guess you could still do both. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
reason you can't, but um,
yeah.
I don't see a unique lane in it, to be honest. Like I'm struggling to find a niche.
Something that you would niche for yourself.
Yeah.
I see, I see. Yeah, there's a lot of I think there's a lot of food content. I mean, there's like some that stick out, but dude, I think food content is so I don't want to say it's the easiest, but I feel like it's the easiest content because people love food, man. We're always hungry. It's
And we're
just like,
always eating.
yeah, yeah. What do you think is the hardest content to promote?
Um, I think genuine self-help.
Okay. Yeah, I can yeah, that's pretty hard.
Yeah. Only because, I mean, outside of the, red pill kind of like, inflammatory help. What I mean is like genuine self help of like, hey, let me give you some information that will actually
Yeah,
challenge you. It's not meant to annoy you. It's not meant to get a rise out of you, but it is
yeah,
just genuine good advice.
yeah,
I think that's the hardest is like just centrist, very simple, clear pieces of advice is difficult to market. What people like is outrageous. They like the emotional roller coaster of
yeah,
stuff. And I think if you're just trying to help and just be like in a normal voice,
yeah.
not really say anything outrageous, but just give good advice, it seems not to go that far.
See, I think what I've come to realize is all content should be that. Even for me as a musician, I think I can't force anyone to listen to something, right? All I can do is just post a song, maybe I'm performing or whatever, and that's it. Like I think that is the best content. Like I'm pretty sure you've seen like drop shipping and like,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh,
click on my link to like it's like I think the best way to sell something is not to sell something, which is kind of weird on social media,
yeah.
you
Well,
know?
it's like the harder I push, the more you push away. And the
Yeah,
harder I keep a secret to myself, the more you're
yeah,
like, hey, I want to know the secret. There's something
yeah,
to that in the mentality. I'm like that. Someone's like, hey,
yeah,
Aaron, there's this fantastic book you should read. I'm like, I don't want to read that book. Because now that you told me about it, there's something about me that's like
yeah,
stubborn. And I like to read books that I don't think many people have read. Or I like
yeah,
to learn things that not many people know. Like
yeah,
if they were like, Aaron, there is a book that every podcaster has read, I'd be like, I'm not reading that book. Not interested. It
yeah,
doesn't fascinate me because everyone's read it. It doesn't make the knowledge unique to me. What I want to read is the books that not many people read so that I come in with a unique view.
yeah. And it's crazy with on social media, like, there are videos that are edited and filmed like amazingly, but like the most viewed videos are literally just your phone and whatever lighting, and yeah, it's like crazy. I really think people want to connect like on a personal level as much as possible. And then I think for me, that's always been my struggle because it's hard being myself as a musician and then like having to be like, hey, what's up? Like blah blah. But like that is actually what I'm striving to do this year. Like, and yeah, that's not easy, you know.
Why do you struggle to be yourself? Because I think you're yourself in your music. I think that comes across.
um I think this is a good time to be myself, but I was just such an angry person. Such an angry person, like, yeah. And doing kind of like content that's non-angry or whatever was just weird to me. It was just like, how can I tell people to listen to my music when I'm like, the music industry sucks and So I just think it takes time, man. Like, you know, I think people who go viral have literally sat in their bedroom, perfected, like looking at the camera. Oh no, that was a good take. Do it again. Do it again. Do it. Like, I need to do that.
Why do you
Not to say
think,
I don't have good content, but I want to be more personable.
why were you so angry and how did you let it go?
I think the trauma from, parents, war, all that stuff. Um, just I guess the music industry too. Um, I my first song was like big, like for me, and so basically my first song, How High, was like the number one song in Hawaii at the time, on the radio, and hit 96 on Billboard. So like, from that I had label meetings and blah 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 blah, and you know, and then you just kind of learn how the industry is. Again, it is what it is. It's business. Um, just life. I don't know. I was just such an angry person, and I was drinking a lot. I was drinking a lot, and then I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking about summer of 2022,
Congrats, man.
and yeah, I stopped doing everything cold turkey, just like boom. So it just took some time, and then you live, release songs, performed. Like like I don't need the things that you think you need in a music industry. Like I think the music industry is such a weird industry because it doesn't have like a clear road for you. You know, um, it's not like in the arts. Like if I'm a painter, I paint a picture. I could sell that physical form. I could do that with music too, but like I think the platforms that allow you to like succeed in, let's say, visual arts than it is with music is much more um there for you, or it's paved. It's like, I don't know. For music, it seems elusive. It's like there's always a new app, there's always a new thing that you have to do, and then the standards change. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like you have streaming now, and like, oh, I get 0.004 cents for. It's constantly changing, and like, you know, not to say that I need to put my music on Spotify or anything. Like, I could sell CDs back in the day and back of my trunk, like all the greats did, but like, just the roads keep changing. There's no like, you know, and because of that, you get confusion, and then you get artists like me. Like, dude, I wanted to do music ever since I was like a kid, and like when I turned 18, I'm like in Hawaii with no like real, there's no industry in Hawaii. It's like how do I do this? Like, this is pre-streaming and everything. Yeah, God bless social media and stuff, but like, yeah, what's next? Like I guarantee you this year or next year, something is gonna come out and be like, oh, TikTok is not as strong anymore. This is the thing now. So I just kind of got to the point like I'm just gonna do as much as I can do. It's basically it. Like release the stuff I want to release and just build, reassess every year, build it. And that to me is a real career. Like I think a lot of artists rush, like newer artists, we rush. We don't have the bricks laid out, the foundation. Like what is a business? Like it's crazy. A lot of us artists do music business without learning the business. We just do the music, right? So I think having your own whatever business it is and how you make money, and then add the music, and that I was missing that a lot too because I rushed. I had a number one song in Hawaii, and then I was just like, oh, I was living this fantasy. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get this label and get this pub deal, but it's like, no, slow down. Business model. What is your business model that works for you and your music and genre and what you want to do? And I think that's what I was missing, and I'm to this point now. That was a long ramble. Sorry, but yeah, yeah,
Hey, the long rambles you get the most from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's
But
what I'm saying. Like a lot of music people like that are coming up on my level and lower, like don't have the business. It's crazy, and it's like, well, what is that? And yeah, it's insane.
well, it's because no one gets into music wanting to do the business. Like, let's be honest. Like,
Yeah,
you didn't get into music because you wanted to do the music business. Got into music because you like making music and it's creative, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with contracts and distribution and all this shit, and you're like, man, this sucks. This is the worst part of it all. Like this is not what I want to be doing. I personally hate the bureaucracy. Hate it. Drives
yeah,
me mental. So why would anyone? Some people like it. I don't know how, but it drives me absolutely insane. Like I get that people go into music not wanting to do paperwork and not wanting to deal with contracts and lawyers and negotiations and like,
Yeah.
it sucks when you realize that's not true. It's not possible for you to be able to do that. I mean, it is. You may never make money. You can always be an artist and release music and never see what comes to fruition, but you can always do it. But it's just like, the truth is that you have to do all that shit if you want to make money and be a career artist.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't mind doing the, you know, the contracts and the little splits and all. I don't mind it. I just think like it's so elusive still. Like, you know, even if like you write a song for a decently big artist and then, you know, like, and then even deals in music, it's so elusive. There's no specific number that, you know, there's no industry standard because that changes, right? So it's like, it's a good and a bad thing, you know? And then you hear big writers that don't get paid till like, just like stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah,
Wild that
it's
I get.
wild. It's wild.
Yeah. But man,
You know,
I still, even though it's wild and even though there is all those things and even though it remains elusive, I'm looking forward to seeing what you drop in 2024, man. Like, I
thanks,
think,
man.
you know, it's, as we speak, it's really good to see you enter into like this new, almost a new story of yourself. Like, you're in a new chapter of like how you've rediscovered your sound, you're working on an album, like all these things are happening. So it's really good to see.
Thanks, man.
I mean, I only have one more question for you. And I think I've chosen this is the only question I plan on the show. It's the only question I rehearse.
Okay.
And I think for an album, man, this will either be really difficult or really easy. But if you had to recommend one album that everybody should listen to at least once to get an appreciation of, doesn't have to be the best album just to appreciate, can be any genre of music, cannot be your own music, what would it be?
Wait a minute. To get a perspective or any perspective
Any
or a
perspective,
weird perspective.
just an album you think people should appreciate. Just listen to at least once.
This is going to be a weird take, but I think people should listen to Brian Eno's album Music for Airports because that is technically, I think that was the first ambient album created.
Okay.
And you know, I think that listen people that listen to ambient music, you know, the ambient music is to relax you and sleep or whatever, but like I think within music theory, because Brian Eno wanted to create an album. Well, it's called Music for Airports because if you think about it, when you go into an airport, there's always music, and then it stops because somebody has to talk over it. And I think he created that album because he wanted some music to happen to keep going, and that a person could speak over it, and it wouldn't like bother each other. And also, he thought that why does music have to change and move? Why can't music just kind of like stay still or sound? So yeah.
That is the most random
I know.
album ever. I kind of love it though. I kind of love it as like that is not the album I would have ever expected. I didn't even know that album existed.
Brian Eno's a legend though. I don't know if you know him.
No.
He's his own artist and stuff, but like man, he's produced for like David Bowie, did Coldplay, two of Coldplay's biggest albums. Like he's amazing.
Well, there you go. That is a recommend for the ages. Yeah, for anyone who hasn't listened, I'm gonna have to listen to a music for the airport. Yeah, it might blow my mind.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please. But yeah, the one and only damnboy came through.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure to have you on the show and great to speak to you. As I said, I'm excited to see the way your career continues to develop. And do you have a time frame for your album?
So I'm dropping 2 songs this month. Kind of like right before Valentine's Day, and then Another song in the end of the month, and then another song after that, and then my album. I think April.
Well, to be honest, by the time this drops, those songs will probably be out. Those two songs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what are they called?
So this month I'm dropping two songs. They're called "Sad Boy" and "Dead Flowers," and then next month is "Warning." After that is "Love Somebody," and then my project, which is called "Never Ending Unknown."
Well, make sure you check him out. The one and only damnboy, man. It's going to be a
Thank
big year.
you.
I can feel it for you, man.
I feel it.
I feel it. Like the energy is
Yeah.
ready for 2024. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to shout out? Anything else you wanted to plug?
Man, this podcast is an amazing podcast. Hip Hop Hustle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
And yeah, make sure you follow damnboy on Instagram, YouTube, all the platforms. Show him some love, and yeah, man, we'll have to do this again soon.
Appreciate you. Thank you.